me, Mattel. It's Mattel that I want. Are you there? To be watching this video. I'm sure Mattel is just one person that watches YouTube videos all day. Hopefully they are, and hopefully they're watching this video because there are a few key figures still missing from the WWE wrestling figure line. Now, I've gone through and I've got like a top 5, a high 5 classic superstars, and I've got a high 5 current superstars. Now, I'm sure the current superstars are being worked on. We'll hear about them in the future, which is why I've done the classic superstars as well. I know a lot of this has to do with Legends contracts and, you know, whether they're on good terms with WWE. But there's some names in here which I know are, and we need figures. So let's go through the classic superstars. At number 5, I've got the Fabulous Moolah. The Fabulous Moolah was women's champion for over 20 years. And, you know, lost it in like the mid-80s, but she was women's wrestling in the 60s and the 70s in particular. And that is a key character, that is a big name amongst wrestling fans. You know, she appeared on WWF TV, as it was at the time, into the 90s. You know, she was still contributing to the business in the 90s and the early 2000s. And there's no figure for her. There was a classic superstars figure though, done by Jax. So I don't see why we don't get a Mattel figure. I would also take an Alundra Blaze. You know, she was massive in the 90s, and she obviously wrestled for WWE at the time and WCW as Medusa. She had that iconic moment of dropping the title in the trash can. And so I was kind of torn between the two. I don't care who you want to go with, but I really would like one of those iconic, classic women's wrestlers added to the line. At number 4, if you want to talk about iconic, how about the first ever WWE champion? You've got to go all the way back to the early 60s, and you've got to go all the way back to when it was known as WWF, Worldwide Wrestling Federation, and the first champion is credited as being Buddy Rogers. Now here's a picture of, I think, not 100%, but I think this is Buddy Rogers with that title, the first ever WWF title. Now, I'm not sure where we stand with him and a Legends contract, but if it was possible to get a figure of the first ever champion, who wouldn't want that? And a replica of that belt as an accessory, then I absolutely want to try and get that into the figure line. That is a big omission for me, so that is my number 4. At number 3, how about the man credited with starting New Japan Pro Wrestling and credited with having one of the first MMA fights of all time, and not just against anybody. He didn't just pick any random person from the street. His opponent was Muhammad Ali, and of course I'm talking about one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, Antonio Inoki. Antonio Inoki, just an absolute god over in Japan. Well, a god in the wrestling world, in truth. At number 2, and this one really surprises me, Bob Backlund. Bob Backlund, you know, one of the longest, I believe the second longest reigning champions of all time. And he doesn't have a Mattel figure, and the reason this surprises me is he is under contract with WWE at the moment. He is on their active roster. He was last seen as a life coach for Darren Young, and there is no reason as to why we don't get an iconic Bob Backlund figure with a towel, kind of, you know, showing off his 1980s championship run attire. You know, in that iconic moment when he dropped the title to the Iron Sheik because the towel was thrown into the ring on his behalf. Absolutely iconic. And then he obviously went and had a feud against Bret the Hitman Hart in the 90s when he came back as well. And he's in wrestling again as a life coach for Darren Young, so we need a Bob Backlund figure. And number one of the most beloved wrestlers of all time, one of the greatest commentators of all time, one of the greatest wrestling personalities of all time. I am, of course, talking about Gorilla Monsoon. Again, there was a classic Superstars figure for Gorilla Monsoon. Why have we not had a Mattel figure for Gorilla Monsoon? So again, you know, he had interactions with Muhammad Ali. He was obviously all over TV throughout the 80s, that iconic commentary duo, him and Bobby the Brain. So I would love to add a Gorilla Monsoon to the collection. But we're not finished there, Mattel, because we've got 5 figures in the current roster that I'm not hearing that you're making at the moment that we need. So at number 5, how about the current NXT champions, the Authors of Pain? These guys in figure form would look absolutely stunning. I want them to come with the NXT tag titles. I want them to come with their NXT TakeOver masks. You can even throw in Paul Ellering as their manager, because I'd like a Paul Ellering figure as well. So if it has to be like a 3-pack elite, so be it. But this thing could be absolutely awesome. At number 4, I'd like to see the current UK champion. Of course I would. He's my favourite wrestler at the moment. Tyler Bate. Tyler Bate, you know, what an iconic moment that was when he won the first ever United Kingdom Championship. I want a Mattel replica of that belt, and I need a figure of Tyler Bate. You know, the sky's the limit. I mean, we know that we're getting that UK Championship show coming up soon. They're filming it in May in Norwich, so we'll be up and running then. It'll be a regular on the network. I expect the increase in exposure of these guys to, you know, really put them on the map. So hopefully Mattel give us a figure at that point, but we should be here now, shouldn't it? At number 3, Bobby Roode, the glorious one, you know, the current NXT champion. Again, you know, there are figures of this, Impact figures, TNA figures, but nothing from Mattel. And I know he hasn't been in it that long, but he's such an iconic wrestler now, you know, with his robe and the fact that he's holding the big title down in NXT. And really, you know, he's the face down there now that Nakamura's been moved up to the main roster. So yes, love to get my hands on a Bobby Roode. At number 2 though, how about the returning Olympic hero, Kurt Angle? We've never had a Mattel Kurt Angle figure. I'm sure they are working on one as we speak. He's obviously been in TNA all this time, so there was never a chance of us getting one. But now we could get one, and I would love to see a Kurt Angle figure. Really from his wrestling days, you know, with the medals. I don't want him in his like new Raw GM attire where he's in a suit. I want him in his wrestling gear with the medals and, you know, the championship belts and everything. Do it as a defining moment. The guy deserves it. But at number 1, how can we not have figures of these guys? The Hardy Boys. The Hardy Boys. We've never had a Hardy Boys battle pack. We've had Hardy Boys figures, early elites. You're talking Series 1, Series 3, Series 6. I think Matt Hardy might have been in a battle pack with the Great Khali. I think it was the Great Khali, I can't quite remember. But I don't recall ever seeing a Matt and Jeff Hardy battle pack. I would do it in their current attire with the red tag team belts. Even if they have to do it as 2 elites, that would probably be better actually, because they don't normally colour in the accessories if they do it as a battle pack. And actually, you don't even get accessories these days in battle packs, looking at the forthcoming battle packs. So yeah, scrap that. I'll have them as 2 elites instead, thanks Mattel. If you're still watching, you better still be watching. Awesome guys, I'd love to know your thoughts as well. Let Mattel know, because they're surely watching, in the comments below what figures you would like to see. I'm sure they're working on a load of stuff at the moment. As I said, for me, I'd love some of those classic superstars. You know, they're never going to go out of fashion, and they're always going to be iconic. So personally, I love adding them to the collection, but I think a lot of the current roster that are champions deserve to have figures. Certainly Tyler Bate, because I could understand him being lost in the conversation due to the fact that Kurt Angle's come back and Bobby Roode is the NXT champion and the Hardy Boys are back. But yeah, I'd love that little UK championship, I really would. I was a massive fan of that belt. I think it's one of the nicest looking belts I've ever seen. Awesome guys, if you like the video, please give it a like, hit the subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully I'll see you again next time. Bye Mattel, for now. Mattel, just make the figures! Hey guys, thanks a lot for watching, and don't forget, jump over to Wrestling Shop because you can save yourself some money. Use the discount code DAZE, D-A-Z-E, and you will get 10% off your order. They've got loads of Mattel figures, play sets, pop vinyls, clothing. They've got everything, so check them out. Awesome guys, thanks a lot for watching, and hopefully I see you again next time. Bye for now.